Well, where do we even start with this one? So, Melania Trump just had her big documentary debut, and let me tell you, calling it a disaster would be generous. We're talking about a spectacular, earth-shattering, absolutely catastrophic flop of epic proportions. And honestly, it couldn't have happened to a more fitting person. Let's set the scene here. Amazon MGM Studios, one of the biggest entertainment companies on the planet, decided to throw down $40 million for the distribution rights to this documentary. $40 million. That's the highest price ever paid for a documentary in history. Let that sink in for a moment. More than any nature documentary, more than any hard-hitting investigative piece, more than anything that's actually changed lives or minds. They paid a record-breaking amount for what essentially amounts to Melania Trump walking around the White House for 20 days before the inauguration, picking out drapes and having meetings. But wait, it gets better. They didn't just pay $40 million for the rights. Oh no. Amazon then turned around and dumped another $35 million into marketing this thing. That's $75 million total, $75 million. You could fund so many actual public initiatives with that money. You could build community centers, fund after-school programs, support mental health services, help homeless veterans, provide scholarships to underprivileged kids. But no, instead we got a vanity project that nobody asked for and even fewer people wanted to see. And here's where it gets absolutely delicious. Despite this massive investment, despite releasing it in 2,000 theaters domestically and 5,000 worldwide, despite President Trump himself going on Truth Social every 5 minutes screaming about how it's selling out fast and everyone needs to see it, the American people looked at this documentary and collectively said, "No thanks, we're good." The opening weekend projections between 1 and 5 million sue. Most estimates are hovering around 3 million against a $75 million investment. Do the math on that return. It's the kind of business decision that would get anyone else fired immediately. But when you're dealing with the Trump orbit, apparently normal rules of economics just don't apply. You want to know how bad it really is? People have been posting screenshots from theater booking apps showing completely empty theaters. Not just a few empty seats, but entire screenings with literally 0 tickets sold. We're talking showings in Florida and Texas, in deep red states where you'd think Trump supporters would be lining up around the block to support their first lady. Nothing. Crickets, empty seats, as far as the eye can see. The American people are boycotting this thing en masse, and they're not being subtle about it. They're making a statement, and that statement is crystal clear. We don't care about your vanity projects. We don't care about your behind-the-scenes access to picking out furniture. We don't care about watching you prepare for photo ops. We have real problems, real concerns, real lives to live, and watching Melania Trump's documentary isn't anywhere on that list. Now, let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel, because he's been absolutely eviscerating this thing night after night. And honestly, it's been beautiful to watch. Kimmel called it the $75 million bribe. I mean, documentary that Amazon made for her. And you know what? He's not wrong. When a company pays that much money for something that has this little artistic or journalistic merit, you have to wonder what else is going on behind the scenes. Kimmel compared the documentary to the Epstein files because, in his words, no one's ever going to see them. That's not just a joke, that's a cultural commentary. He's pointing out that despite all the hype, all the money, all the promotion, this documentary is going to disappear into obscurity faster than you can say conflict of interest. When Melania said that Donald Trump loved the film and called it a must-watch, Kimmel didn't miss a beat. He said, "My guess is he saw the first 8 minutes and fell asleep in his popcorn bucket." And honestly, can you imagine anything more accurate? This is a man whose attention span is legendary for all the wrong reasons, who reportedly doesn't read briefings longer than 1 page, and we're supposed to believe he sat through an hour and 44 minutes of anything, let alone a documentary about his wife. But here's where Kimmel really went in for the kill. Melania apparently compared her documentary to Michael Jackson and the Rolling Stones. Yes, you heard that right. She compared her vanity project to 2 of the most influential and talented artists in music history. And Kimmel responded with, "The only thing that reminds me of Michael Jackson is when it's bad, it's bad. You know it, and it's bad. I mean, that's just perfect." Using MJ's own lyrics to roast her delusions of grandeur. And then there's the crew situation, which Kimmel also highlighted. 2/3 of the New York crew asked to have their names removed from the credits. 2/3. These are people who worked on the film who presumably got paid for their work, and they still wanted nothing to do with having their names associated with it. Kimmel pointed out that even the Weird Cats movie from a few years ago, the one with the nightmare-inducing CGI that became a cultural punching bag. Even that movie had everyone keeping their credits. When your documentary is so toxic that people who worked on cats feel better about that association than yours, you've really achieved something special. Let's talk about what really bothers me here. Beyond just the commercial failure and the mockery, it's the complete and utter waste of resources and opportunity. Melania Trump had a platform, she had access. She had the ability to actually do something meaningful. Instead of creating a documentary about herself, she could have started real public initiatives. She could have invested that energy, that time, those resources into programs that help people. Think about what $28 million, which is what Melania is personally pocketing from this deal, regardless of how it performs, could do in the right hands. You could establish nationwide anti-bullying programs. You could fund women's shelters. You could provide resources for children in foster care. You could support literacy programs in underserved communities. You could make an actual tangible difference in people's lives. But instead, we got a documentary about Melania preparing for the inauguration. We got footage of meetings and preparations that serve no public interest whatsoever. We got what is essentially an extended advertisement for the Trump brand funded by Amazon and promoted by the President of the United States himself, using government platforms and resources. Speaking of which, let's address the elephant in the room. This documentary had White House screenings. It had premieres across 20 cities. It had the full weight of presidential promotion behind it. Donald Trump used his platform as president to market his wife's commercial product. Think about what that means. The resources of the presidency, the attention that comes with that office, the implicit endorsement of having the President of the United States telling people to go see something, all of that was deployed for a for-profit documentary that's putting millions of dollars directly into the Trump family's pockets. They held a screening at the White House with 70 guests, including Queen Ronnie of Jordan, Tim Cook, Mike Tyson, and various CEOs. They used the People's House to promote a commercial product. That's not just questionable ethics. That's a flagrant abuse of the position and the public trust, and for what? So it could flop spectacularly. Anyway, the American people saw through it immediately. They understood exactly what this was. Another grift, another attempt to monetize the presidency, another example of the Trump family treating public office as a personal business opportunity. And they rejected it wholesale. The boycott isn't organized by any particular group or movement. It's organic. It's Americans across the political spectrum saying, they've had enough. You want to know why this went flop? It's not complicated. It's because people are tired. They're tired of the narcissism. They're tired of being told they should care about things that have zero impact on their actual lives. They're tired of watching wealthy, powerful people use their positions to get even wealthier and more powerful. While regular Americans struggle with healthcare costs, housing affordability, student debt, and 1,000 other real problems. When you're a family making millions off a documentary while Americans are deciding between paying rent and buying groceries, when you're throwing lavish movie premieres while people are losing their homes, when you're demanding attention for your vanity project while communities are desperate for resources and support, people notice and they remember. The documentary also fundamentally misunderstands what people want from their leaders. We don't want access to the mundane details of preparation. We don't want to watch you pick out decorations or attend meetings that mean nothing to us. We want to see action. We want to see results. We want to see our leaders actually working to improve our lives, not documenting themselves for profit. Melania had the opportunity to use her platform for genuine good. She could have championed causes that matter. She could have been a voice for the voiceless. She could have used her visibility to shine a light on issues that desperately need attention. Instead, she chose to make money off a documentary about herself. That's the choice she made, and the American people are responding accordingly. And let's be real about the content itself for a minute. Even if you're a die-hard Trump supporter, even if you think they can do no wrong, what exactly is compelling about watching 20 days of inauguration preparation? What insights does this offer? What value does it provide? It's not investigative journalism. It's not educational. It's not even particularly entertaining based on the reviews. It's just footage of a wealthy woman preparing for an event, and that's supposed to be worth the highest documentary price tag in history. The film had editorial control by Melania herself. She was heavily involved as an executive producer. So this is exactly the story she wanted to tell, presented exactly how she wanted to present it. And people still aren't interested. That should tell you something. When you have complete creative control and unlimited resources and the backing of one of the world's biggest entertainment companies and the promotional power of the presidency, and you still can't get people to show up, maybe the problem isn't the marketing or the distribution or the competition. Maybe the problem is that nobody actually wants what you're selling. The director, Brett Ratner, adds another layer of controversy to this whole mess. This is a man who faced sexual assault allegations back in 2017. Multiple women came forward with accusations. And this is who Melania chose to direct her documentary. This is who she entrusted with telling her story. What does that say about her judgment? What does that say about her values? The review bombing on Letterboxd, where users are openly trying to make it the lowest rated film on the platform, isn't just trolling. It's a form of protest. People are using the tools available to them to express their rejection of what this documentary represents. They're saying loudly and clearly that this kind of self-serving, resource-wasting, ethics-violating content isn't acceptable. And here's what really gets me. Melania and Donald Trump, both of them, should be focused on what Americans actually want and need. They should be listening to the concerns of regular people. They should be addressing the real challenges facing this country. Instead, they're throwing movie parties and demanding we pay attention to their commercial ventures. It's tone-deaf at best and actively harmful at worst. The infrastructure in this country is crumbling. Schools are underfunded. Healthcare is unaffordable for millions. The climate crisis is accelerating. Income inequality is at historic levels. And we're supposed to care about a documentary showing Melania Trump preparing for the inauguration. We're supposed to prioritize that over everything else that matters. This is why it flopped. This is why theaters are empty. This is why people are boycotting. Because Americans, regardless of their political affiliation, are smart enough to recognize when they're being taken for a ride. They're perceptive enough to see through the propaganda. They're fed up enough to actively reject content that serves no purpose other than enriching people who are already enormously wealthy and powerful. The $75 million spent on this documentary represents a fundamental misallocation of resources. It represents a complete disconnect from the priorities and concerns of ordinary Americans. It represents everything that's wrong with how some people in power view their positions, not as opportunities for service, but as platforms for self-promotion and profit. If Melania truly wanted to make a difference, if she genuinely cared about using her platform for good, there were countless ways to do it. She could have created documentaries highlighting important social issues. She could have used that Amazon money to fund programs that help children, which was supposedly her signature issue as First Lady. She could have invested in communities and education and healthcare, in any number of things that would have actually benefited people. But she didn't. She chose to make a movie about herself. And the American people have responded by staying home. They voted with their wallets and their time, and they voted a resounding no. This isn't about political affiliation. Trump supporters aren't showing up either. This is about basic human decency and priorities. The contrast between the hype and the reality is almost comical if it wasn't so tragic. Donald Trump on Truth Social claiming it's selling out fast while screenshots show completely empty theaters. Amazon spending $35 million on marketing while projections come in at $3 million for opening weekend. White House premieres and international releases while regular Americans scroll past it without a second thought. This documentary will be forgotten in a matter of weeks, if not days. It'll become a footnote in the long list of Trump family business ventures that promised much and delivered little. It'll be remembered, if at all, as a spectacular example of how not to spend $75 million. And Melania will walk away with her $28 million regardless, because that's how these deals work when you're wealthy and connected enough. But the message from the American people is clear. We're done being audience to vanity projects. We're done pretending that the personal lives of wealthy elites matter more than our own struggles and challenges. We're done accepting that public resources and platforms should be used for private profit. We're rejecting it actively, vocally, and decisively. Jimmy Kimmel gets it. The late-night hosts get it. The millions of Americans who are choosing not to see this documentary get it. This isn't what we need. This isn't what we want. This isn't worthy of our time, our money, or our attention. And until Melania, Donald, and everyone in their orbit understand that and start actually listening to what Americans are asking for, They're going to keep seeing failures like this. The flop of this documentary is a rejection of narcissism. It's a rejection of the idea that we should care about the trivial details of powerful people's lives while our own needs go unmet. It's a statement that we expect more, we deserve more, and we won't settle for less. And that's exactly as it should be. What makes this even more frustrating is the timing. We're living in an era where documentary film has never been more powerful or more important. Real documentaries are changing conversations, exposing injustice, educating the public, and making genuine differences in the world. We've seen documentaries spark movements, change laws, free innocent people from prison, and bring critical issues to light. That's what the medium can do when it's used properly, when it's used with integrity and purpose. And then you have a glorified home video with a $75 million price tag. It's an insult to real documentary filmmakers who struggle to get funding for projects that actually matter. It's a slap in the face to journalists and storytellers who pour their hearts and souls into work that serves the public interest. It devalues the entire medium when something this shallow and self-serving gets treated as worthy of record-breaking investment. Think about all the important stories that go untold because they can't secure funding. Think about the investigative journalists who can't get support for projects that could expose corruption or bring justice. Think about the filmmakers documenting climate change, human rights abuses, social inequality, and other critical issues who are scraping by on shoestring budgets. And then Amazon throws $40 million at Melania Trump to film her walking around the White House. It's obscene. The whole thing reeks of privilege and entitlement, the assumption that people should care, that audiences would naturally be interested, that this deserved premium placement in thousands of theaters worldwide. It shows a fundamental disconnect from reality. Most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. They're worried about inflation, about their jobs, about their kids' futures. They don't have the luxury of indulging in celebrity worship, especially not when that celebrity is someone actively benefiting from a system that's failing them. And you know what's particularly gling? The documentary apparently shows Melania in various meetings and preparations. But there's no substance there. There's no policy discussion that affects regular people. There's no insight into governance or leadership. It's all surface-level pageantry. It's the equivalent of watching someone plan a wedding, except the wedding is an inauguration, and the bride is already one of the most powerful women in the world who doesn't need our attention or sympathy. The fact that Trump used official channels to promote this commercial product